born to Mary and Bud Sauders on April 12, 1947. He spent his first few years in Cheviot and said that he was told that he took his first steps in Green Gables Tavern. At age 4 or 5, he and his parents moved into a new house on Crestmore Drive. He went to Our Lady of Lourdes, where he excelled as a saxophone player in the school band under Sister Mary Bertil. When he was about 10 years old, some sisters started to arrive at his home. First came Barb, then Charm, then Marzie. I lived on the next street over. He used to come over to my house like a lot of the other guys in the neighborhood and play basketball, football, and baseball in the field next door. It was during these years, I think, that he developed his love for baseball. We'd play hardball all day. Just recently, he told me that his baseball idol back then was Dusty Baker. I asked him if he was nuts back then. At some time, probably when he was about 12 or 13, he injured his elbow, and the doctor put his arm in a temporary cast. It was like a trough that he put his arm in, and then wrapped it in an ace bandage to keep it immobilized. He watched us play for a short time and then slowly joined in, swinging the bat with his good arm. Finally, he would unwrap his arm from the trough and play the rest of the afternoon with us. When we were done playing, we would help him rewrap his arm in the trough and he'd go home. He did that for some time. The doctor couldn't figure out why the arm wasn't bending the way it should. They finally had to operate on the elbow and put it in a regular cast. That's the way Jerry was. He played knot-hole baseball and later softball for a lot of years. In later years, he enjoyed watching the Cincinnati Steam baseball team play at Western Hills High School. After 8 years at Our Lady of Lourdes, he attended Elder High School for 1 year, then went to Oak Hills for a year. He decided that school wasn't for him. He worked a couple years and then before his 18th birthday, he joined the Navy. He spent time in Jacksonville, Florida. He toured the Mediterranean on the USS Noah and was stationed for months on an air base near Ankara, Turkey. Because of his features and dark complexion, off the base he could pass as a Turk. He learned a little of the Turkish language and carried around some worry beads like all of the Turks. He could then go into the stores, restaurants, and bars and get the friendly Turk price instead of the inflated American price. He was honorably discharged from the Navy right before his 21st birthday. He met the future love of his life, Miss Claire Sheehan, one November night in the early 60s at Oskamps Park during an elder powwow bonfire. They were married October 10th, 1969. In 1973, their daughter Jody came, followed by Dusty in 1976. Later, he was a loving grandfather to Taylor and Jake. After the Navy and after a couple of different jobs, he went to work for Pepsi. First as a helper, then as a driver. Jerry never met a stranger. He could talk with anybody. No matter where we'd go, someone would know him. Inevitably, someone would yell, "Hey, Pepsi." Jerry would say hi and explain that that guy was so-and-so from one of his stops. After about 10 years, he went to work for Denner Distributors delivering beer. First, he had a Pabst truck, then a Miller truck. And again, it was, "Hey, Pabst," "Hey, Miller," or just, "Hey, Beer Man." He ran a few different routes, but spent most of the years delivering on the west side, places like Green Gables, the Wagon Wheel, Shady Lawn, Les Flicks, Miamitown, Cleves, E-Town, and Harrison. Jerry was probably the most loyal and dedicated employee a company could ever have. Until his heart attack and his kidney problems, I'll bet he didn't miss but a couple of days' work in all those years. He had a love for racing, especially for IndyCar racing. He saw many Indy 500 races. He chartered a bus for a number of years so we could all go up together. Later, he would rent a bus and drive us up. We'd also go to Lawrenceburg Speedway once in a while. Excuse me. Speaking of Lawrenceburg, when we were about 16, we were at the Lawrenceburg Fair and got up the nerve to go into the streets of Paris girly show tent. After the show, when exiting the tent, the first purple we saw were Jerry's mom and his 3 sisters. We about died. Mrs. Sauder let us squirm for a while, then busted out laughing. After a while, Jerry asked her, "Where's Dad?" She said, "He was in the line for the next show," and then she laughed again. My face still gets red thinking about that. With all his medical problems, plus going to dialysis 3 times a week, he would never complain. He instead would ask you about your problems. He was always concerned about everyone else. Even at the end, he cared enough to donate his body for research at Wright State University. Jerry liked country music. Hank Sr., Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Porter Wagner, anything old. He liked watching about any old movie, especially the old westerns, John Wayne, Roy Rogers, Bonanza, and the old TV shows like Amy Griffith. He liked dogs and always had one around him. One thing that a lot of people didn't know about Jerry was that he had a slight problem with flatulence or gas. I didn't know Jerry's middle name until Claire yelled, "Gerald James, don't do that in this restaurant anymore." He'd just smile and say, "Sorry, Clara," and then do it again 2 minutes later. Husband, father, grandfather, son, brother, brother-in-law, uncle, nephew, and friend. Jerry was one hell of a guy and will be missed by a lot of people. We love you, Jerry. Thank you.